What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 84. We got Magomed Ankalaev going against Johnny Walker.
I need all the wins, yeah. All that and all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back after a way too long of a break. First breakdown here of 2024. And guys, I'm very excited to be back. I mean, the last couple Saturdays have been awful. I mean, no fights. So I was forced to actually do things. I was forced to hang out with friends, spend time with family, which is awesome. Spending time with family is great. But I mean, come on, Saturday is for fights. So, but it was nice spending time with family over the holidays. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your holidays as well, enjoyed the family. But we got fights this Saturday, and I can't be more excited. I was missing fights the first couple days after the break. So it's been way too long, and I'm really looking forward to being back for 2024. Looking to keep the ball rolling. Last year was the best year I've had since I've started tracking bets, up almost 70 units with almost a 20% ROI last year. And this year, I'm going into this year trying to keep everything the same. I don't want to change anything. I want to try to replicate the year I had last year. I like the strategy. I like how I attacked cards last year and going to try to replicate an incredible year last year. I was really happy with how last year played out. Going into my 7th year of doing content. Started doing content late 2017. It is now 2024. Started doing content on my buddy's channel for UFC. Ended up making my own channel, and then ended up, turning that into DFS by the Numbers, what it is today. So yes, 7 years of content. It's been an absolute grind. I appreciate every single one of you for sticking with me. If you guys could, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. That is the best way to support me. If you do want to support me more, now is a great time to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. And I'm going to be doing the beginning of the year deal. I did it last year. A lot of people signed up. A lot of people liked it. And the deal is going to be, first off, if you sign up for a year, you get 10% off. So if you want to be with me for a year, instead of paying $120, you get $108. So 10% off first and foremost. And then secondly, if you do sign up, I will give you a free t-shirt. I'll ship anywhere to the US. Just sign up. I'll email you. I'll get your size, and then I'll get your address as well, and I'll ship that out to you there. But yeah, check it out. Most popular option, the MMA betting tier. With that, you get access to my stats you see on the Friday, Saturday shows. First notice on all bets. Access to Discord. I do 2 betting articles. A full card best bet article where I give my confidence ratings, my predictions, and the best bet. And then I also do a final betting article on Friday, which has all my tracked bets, breaking them all down, and then some DGen parlays, a main card, a prelim, and a Hail Mary parlay every single week. And then of course, when Dana White's Contender Series comes back, I'll be doing content for that as well. And then also this year, I'm planning on adding some Prize Picks content as well. Planning on doing a top 5 Prize Picks plays article, and then doing a Prize Picks entry, whether that be a 2, 3, 4 Prize Picks entry each and every week. So going to be adding a ton of new stuff on the website. Now is a great time to check it out, and check out that yearly special. This shirt is so big, man. I mean, this is a 3X. A 3X, and if you're a 3X, for the love of God, can you sign up? Because I have way too many 3Xs. I don't know why I got so many, but if you're a 3X, help me out. I have way too many 3Xs. But yeah, and then also last thing, check me out on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the Numbers. I'm going to be doing a ton of short content, whether that be Instagram, even TikTok, DFS_numbers on TikTok. I'm going to be doing a lot of betting, Prize Picks content, these short videos. That'll be coming up in the next upcoming weeks. And then also do want to shout out the Patreon. Same thing as the website, dfsbythenumbers.com, just a different platform. I know a couple guys still on the Patreon. They'd like that platform better. That is patreon.com/dfsbythenumbers. So I wanted to get all the plugs out of the way at the beginning of the year. You guys know how it is. It's time to break down some fights. We're going to start with the first fight of the card, and we have an absolute banger to kick it off. We got Joshua Van going against Felipe Bunes. We have Joshua Van, who is 22 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach, 9-1. And 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Felipe Bunes, he's 34 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach, 13-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. And bear with me, guys. It is the first card of the year. We're going to make some mistakes. This is a flyweight fight, not a featherweight fight. There we go. It's a flyweight fight. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And we have Joshua Van opened up minus 160, currently minus 205. Felipe Bunes opened up plus 130, currently plus 175. And I'm a big fan of Joshua Van. I mean, didn't intend to rhyme there, but I kind of like it. I'm a big fan of Van. This guy's only 22 years old. This guy just started fighting a few years ago, and we can see, like, every time this guy steps into the cage, he is making so many different improvements. I remember he made his debut against Zhalgas Zhumagulov because Zhalgas' opponent pulled out. That opponent was actually Felipe Bunes. Joshua Van steps in as a decent-sized underdog, and he not only beats Zhalgas, but beats him very handedly. One of the judges did score it for Zhalgas, but I mean, come on. I mean, Van won that fight pretty clearly, almost knocked out Zhalgas in that second round in an incredible performance. He put up like 120 significant strikes against Zhalgas. Impressive, extremely impressive. And then he goes out there against a guy in Borjas who's a very dangerous striker, and it's a performance where it took him a little bit to get going. It took him about 7.5 minutes, but once that 7.5 minute mark hit, Joshua Van turned it up, and he turned it up big time. He started mixing it up to the body, and he landed like 160 in that fight against Kevin Borjas. I think Joshua Van at 22 years old has a significant ceiling, so really looking forward to the return of Joshua Van and seeing what improvements he has in store for us this Saturday. As far as Felipe Bunes, this guy's good. This guy's a grappler. And a striker. I mean, he's well-rounded. This guy has a ton of submissions on his record. I like the striking, very flashy attacks, and a ton of power as well. He's a solid finisher. I guess the one knock on him is he is coming into the UFC as a flyweight at 34 years old. You know, we don't typically see guys 34, 35, 36 years old making their debut all too often. But he's fought some good competition outside the UFC. He's well-rounded, like I said. The other knock on him is a little bit low volume at times, which is a concern here against Joshua Van. Because on the feet, I mean, it's going to be very hard for Bunes to outstrike Joshua Van in terms of the numbers. And I kind of think for Bunes to win this fight, he's going to have to either A, grapple, or B, knock Joshua Van out. And I'm not sure he's going to be able to knock Joshua Van out. Van's shown a ton of great durability, but maybe he does go to the grappling. That's kind of the one thing where we have seen Van struggle with. His only loss does come via submission. So maybe we do see Bunes go to the grappling, but yeah, I like Van here. I think he's making improvements in that wrestling, in the grappling. He's even going out there and getting takedowns himself nowadays. So as long as Van's able to keep this upright, as long as his durability holds up, he should be able to outland Felipe Bunes, just be the more active fighter across 15 minutes, potentially get a finish. But I'll say Joshua Van wins this fight and wins it by decision. Moving on, we have a very fun fight. We got Tom Nolan going against Nikolas Motta. We got Tom Nolan, 23 years old, 6'3", with a 76-inch reach, 6-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Nikolas Motta, he's 30 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 13-5 and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we have Tom Nolan opening up minus 190, currently minus 330. Nikolas Motta opening up plus 160, is currently plus 270. So this is one of those spots where I think people are just really fading Motta, which is, it's fine. I mean, this is a guy in Motta who I actually was somewhat high on. I was somewhat excited about when he first came in the UFC, because if you go watch Nikolas Motta outside of the UFC, this guy is not only knocking guys out, but he is sending them to the hospital. Like, he's knocking these guys out, and they're just not waking up for a long, long time. Nikolas Motta flashed serious power outside the UFC. Inside the UFC, a little bit different story. He does have 1 knockout against Cameron Van Camp, but other than that, I mean, he just looks off. I worry about Nikolas Motta. I really do. I worry about a couple things. I worry about the durability first and foremost. Nikolas Motta in 5 losses, all 5 of them coming inside the distance. I worry about the confidence. I mean, Nikolas Motta, all he's been doing is getting knocked out, right? Okay, so they throw him to Trey Ogden, who Trey Ogden knocks out nobody. Trey Ogden literally knocks out nobody. He has 0 knockouts. And Nikolas Motta proceeds to go out there and just lay an egg. I mean, it was a terrible performance. He was getting outstruck by Trey Ogden. Trey Ogden was piecing this guy up and even hurting Motta, it looked like at times. And then Ogden took him down, was about to sub him. And then there's the whole thing with the ref thought that Motta was out. He wasn't out. Ends up turning into a no contest, which is ridiculous because, you know, Trey Ogden was on his way to like 30-26ing Nikolas Motta. Let me repeat that. Trey Ogden was going to 30-26 Nikolas Motta. Come on. Unacceptable. So Although I don't think Tom Nolan really should be minus 330 against anybody, because Tom Nolan, I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's super exciting, but he's very defensively irresponsible. He's one of those guys that just throws striking defense out the window. He's going to bite down on the mouthpiece. He's going to stand and bang. He leaves a lot of openings, and I went back and watched some of his fights outside of his Contender Series fight, and he does get hit clean. His chin has held up, but Nikolas Motta at the end of the day hits hard. It's just, I don't like where the confidence looks to be at for Nikolas Motta. I can't pick him here. I'm going to take Tom Nolan, knock out a very chinny Nikolas Motta, and I think it comes in the first round. This fight should be a banger for as long as it lasts. Speaking of banger, we have Gene Silva going against Westin Wilson. I've had this fight circled, as you know, as soon as we had the break. This fight stuck out to me because it's a Westin Wilson fight, and this should be a fun one. We got Gene Silva, who is 27 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 11-2 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Westin Wilson, 34 years old, 6'1", with a 73-inch reach, 16-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Biggest favorite on the card here in Gene Silva. Some of these odds are hilarious. We have Gene Silva opening up minus 350. He's now minus 900. Westin Wilson opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 600. Gene Silva was an underdog on the Contender Series. So I did DWCS content last year. I actually picked Gene Silva as an underdog, but it was more like a shot in the dark type pick where there's not a lot of footage out there on Gene Silva. Like, I found 2 fights of this guy prior to his Contender Series fight, but in that Contender Series fight, I think he blew a lot of people away with his performance. He went out there, he lost the first round, but as the fight went on, he got more and more aggressive, and he was landing some vicious shots on, I think his name was Vallejos. He landed like a big flying knee. Like, oh my, I'm watching that fight back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if he lands anything close to what he's doing now, he's going to destroy Westin Wilson. So, although it's kind of weird seeing Gene Silva go from a pretty decent-sized dog in Dana White's Contender Series to almost minus 1,000, he's going against Westin Wilson, who I just don't get. I don't get this guy. I mean, he has a really cool name, but I just don't get it. He has like no process to his game. He's a really good grappler that doesn't really wrestle. He strikes a lot more than he needs to. He's super hittable. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing here. He took a short notice fight with Joe Anderson Brito, which, by the way, whoever made that fight should probably be in prison right now. I mean, how do you sanction that one? Joe Anderson Brito versus Westin Wilson. A step down here, but I mean, I think it's the same thing. I think Gene Silva knocks Westin Wilson out in the first round. What I will say though is, if this fight does hit the mat, whether it's Westin Wilson getting Silva down, whether it's Silva knocking down Wilson, getting on top, whether it's even Silva making a mistake and taking down Wilson, kind of like Brito did, if this fight does hit the ground and you do lay minus 900 on Silva, which you should not do, you are going to be sweating, because Westin Wilson is dangerous on the ground. Like, if this fight hits the mat, he's going to be very live to win this fight. It's just, I think he gets knocked out before then. I think it's brutal. I think it's absolutely brutal. And I think this is probably Westin Wilson's last fight, unfortunately. Like, this is probably the easiest, like one of the easiest matchups they could give Westin Wilson off the top of my head. And he's plus 600. Like, it tells you everything you need to know. Give me Gene Silva. Gene Silva, first round knockout. Moving on, we have Farid Basharat going against Taylor Lapilus. We got Basharat, 26 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 11-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Taylor Lapilus, he's 31 years old, 5'6", with a 73-inch reach, 19-3 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So we have Basharat opening up minus 300, currently minus 300. Lapilus opening up plus 250, currently plus 250. So I think this is a lot closer than this line indicates. I think the reason we're getting a price tag on Basharat is the name. Like, everybody's excited about the Basharat brothers. These guys are really good, which they are. They're really good. It's just, so is Taylor Lapilus. Lapilus is a very good fighter. Lapilus is so underrated. Like, this guy is 19-3. Lapilus has fought in the UFC before, and he went like 3-1. Let's see. Yeah, he went 3-1. 3-1 in the UFC back in 2015, 2016. And the UFC cut him. He then goes off and has a great career outside of the UFC. They bring him back against Colin Loughran, and he goes out there and he looks good on the feet. I mean, Taylor Lapilus is a very, very good striker, very fast hands. And if he's able to keep this fight upright, I mean, I don't see how Basharat looks anywhere near minus 300. But, Basharat's a good striker himself. Basharat can absolutely wrestle. He can absolutely get this fight down to the ground. It's just, will he be able to hold down Lapilus? Because Lapilus' takedown defense is very good. He was able to stuff the majority of takedowns from Loughran. Loughran went like 2 for 11 on takedowns. And even outside the UFC, guys are trying to take him down, and he does a really good job at defending. So I think it really all comes down to whether or not Lapilus is able to A, stuff the takedown, and B, if he gets taken down, be able to get back up. And I kind of lean towards him doing so. So I think it's a very close fight, and the line's not really indicating that. I could see a situation where it's one of those fights where we have Basharat, landing a takedown or two, controlling Lapilus against the cage, but it's Lapilus doing the better work on the feet, landing some nice shots on the feet, doing some good work on the feet, and then the judges are kind of split on it. Like I could see a split decision type fight. So I'm going to pick Lapilus here as a really big dog. I'm going to take him to win by decision, like a split decision. It would not shock me if the judges gave it to Basharat, the undefeated guy that everybody's excited about. But what I'm trying to say is Lapilus, I think he's very, very live to at least make this fight super competitive. And for that reason, I'll pick him to win by split decision. Moving on, we got Marcus McGhee going against Gaston Balanos. We got McGhee, who's 33 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach, 8-1. And 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Balanos, he's 31 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach, 7-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Marcus McGhee opened up minus 375, currently minus 260. Balanos opened up plus 310, currently plus 220. What I'll say right off the bat is be careful with this one, guys, because Marcus McGhee is a big favorite here. And Marcus McGhee can look like a big favorite if he grapples, which is a very big if, because we have not seen Marcus McGhee grapple, really ever. I know he submitted Journey Newson in his debut, but he knocked him down. He didn't take him down. He didn't actively try to get the fight down on the mat. And then he also had a submission as an amateur. Same thing. He hurt that opponent multiple times and got like a standing guillotine. Didn't really try to actively wrestle. So I really haven't seen Marcus McGhee go out there and actively wrestle, and that's a concern here. Like, if you're telling me Marcus McGhee and Gaston Balanos stand and trade for 15 minutes, Marcus McGhee isn't looking minus 260. He's not. Gaston Balanos is a very good striker, and it's going to be the best striker that McGhee's fought by a mile. Like, this is not JP Bays. This is not Journey Newson. Gaston Balanos is an incredible striker. The problem with Gaston Balanos is he has a major hole in his game, and that major hole in his game is the takedown defense, not good. The ground game, atrocious. If you get this guy down, you're probably subbing him. He has 3 losses. 2 come by sub. The other one comes by decision, where we got taken down in every single round. Even Phillips in his debut had some success on the ground. I think almost submitted him a time or two in that fight as well. So, yeah, Marcus McGhee, it all comes down to the game plan. Does Marcus McGhee have grappling in his back pocket? Maybe he does. He trains at a really good gym. We have seen him get some subs before, like I said, as an amateur with that standing rear naked choke with the Journey Newson sub, but we haven't seen him actively go out there and grapple, which is the big concern for me. So I'm staying away from this one, but I kind of lean towards Marcus McGhee, maybe going for takedowns, which is so hard to say. But if you're Marcus McGhee and you're like watching tape on this guy and you're trying to come up with a game plan, it's like, just take him down. If you take him down, it's a wrap. Like, Balanos' ground game is that bad. So I'm gonna say McGhee comes out here and fights smart, but if he tries to strike up Balanos, it's gonna be very close. So give me McGhee. I'll take it in 1 by sub. If he takes him down, he's subbing him. But it all comes down to the game plan, which, fights like these are typically ones I want to stay far away from. But give me McGhee. I'll say he does get the fight down on the mat and gets the sub. Moving on, we have probably one of the most underrated fights of the card, probably my favorite fight on the card, Matthew Semelsberger, Preston Parsons. We got Matthew Semelsberger, 31 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach, 11-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Preston Parsons, he's 28 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach, 10-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Semelsberger opening up minus 185. He's currently minus 130. Preston Parsons opening up plus 160. He's currently plus 130. And the reason this is my favorite matchup on the card is it's because it's a striker versus grappler matchup. Simple as that. And whoever wins this fight is going to look like a massive favorite. It's one of those fights, right? Like, either Matthew Semelsberger stuffs the takedowns and just destroys Preston Parsons, like knocks him out and knocks him out brutally, or Parsons is able to get the fight down to the mat and find a sub. Like, I think those are two very viable outcomes. Matheus Semelsberger has some of the best power in the welterweight division. I kid you not. This is a guy in Semelsberger who has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 UFC fights, and he's landed a knockdown in 7 of those 9 UFC fights. Ridiculous power. A knockdown against Uros Medic, 2 knockdowns against Jeremiah Wells, 3 knockdowns against Jake Matthews, a knockdown against Alex Morono, a knockout against Martin Sono, a knockout against Jason Witt, a knockdown against Carlton Minus. I mean, this guy's knocking guys down like it's his job, and he's taken on Preston Parsons, who's very hittable on the feet. I mean, we saw Trevin Giles just piecing up Preston Parsons on the feet, hurting him multiple times on the feet. We saw Daniel Rodriguez destroy Preston Parsons on the feet. So if Parsons is not able to get this fight down to the mat, he's in trouble, and he's getting knocked out. With that said, though, Parsons has a path to victory. Parsons, very good wrestler, very good grappler, very active with the submissions. In his 3 UFC fights, which we could throw out the D-Rod fight, it was short notice, it lasted a couple minutes. In his 2 UFC fights with Evan Elder and Trevin Giles, this guy Parsons attempted 8 submissions. 8 submissions, which is it's ridiculous. He's averaging 3.5 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So he has a good grappler, a good wrestler, but he needs to get the fight down to the mat. He's going against Semelsberger, who has shown to be taken down. You know, Jeremiah Wells took him down 6 times. We saw AJ Fletcher take him down 4 times. So the path is there for Parsons. It's just what I think is going to happen. I think Matheus Semelsberger, he's a big dude, big, strong dude. I think he does stuff these takedowns, and if he does, I think he makes it look easy, but whoever wins this fight is going to make it look easy. I'll say that. I'm looking at violence here, but I'm going to take Semelsberger to knock out Preston Parsons very brutally and do it in the first round. Moving on, we have a fight that should not be sanctioned. We got Waldo Cortes-Acosta going against Andrei Arlovski. We got Waldo Cortes-Acosta, 32 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach, 10-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Andrei Arlovski is 44 years old, 6'3", with a 77-inch reach, 34-22, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, the second biggest favorite on the card, opening up minus 400, currently minus 600. Andrei Arlovski opened up plus 330, currently plus 425. And I don't often say that fights shouldn't be sanctioned. I say it every couple months, right? But when I do say it, I'm typically right. Like, this fight shouldn't be happening. Arlovski, 44 years old at this point, right? 44 years old, 56 fights. 56 fights. I even think he has like 2 I think it's like 58 with his no contest mix in. It's almost 60 fights for Arlovski. He's been knocked out 12 times. And he's the oldest fighter in the UFC off the top of my head. Like, we don't have Oleinik no more. We don't have Marion Renault no more. I don't think Guido Canetti's fighting in the UFC anymore. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's the oldest fighter, and by a significant margin at the moment. He's almost 45 years old. I think he turns 45 in a couple months. And he's a guy that there's been a decline for a while now, for a while. But he has went out there and won some fights. He beat Chase Sherman. But, I mean, come on, right? He beat Carlos Felipe in a close fight. He beat Jared Vanderaa in a fight that I thought he potentially lost. He beat Jake Collier in a fight I thought he potentially lost. But, I mean, at the end of the day, those are crap wins. Jake Collier, Jared Vanderaa, Carlos Felipe, Chase Sherman. And then Tanner Boser, I mean, he lost to Tanner Boser. I don't know what it is with the judges, but the judges love Andrei Arlovski. So I'm looking at some of these wins, like they're not that good. But when he fights somebody somewhat decent, he's not only losing, he's getting finished. Got knocked out in the first 29 seconds against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Got submitted against Tom Aspinall. Got submitted against Marcos Rogério de Lima. Got knocked out by Dontel Mays. let me repeat that. He got knocked out by Dontel Mays. If you're getting knocked out by Dontel Mays, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I'm not one of these guys that says this fight's fixed or no, I'm not one of those guys. But to get knocked out by Dontel Mays, like, you got to try to get knocked out by that guy. I mean, that's ridiculous. So that's the last straw for me. If you're getting knocked out by Dontel Mays, what the heck is Waldo Cortes-Acosta going to do? I mean, this guy is 12 years younger, hits like a truck. I mean, he loads up on the... Oh, he's going to... I feel bad for Andrei Arlovski here. I mean, this guy's a legend. He's been fighting forever, but I think he gets knocked out here, and I think it's in the first round. If you're getting knocked out by Dontel Mays, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Give me Waldo Cortes-Acosta winning by first round knockout. I don't get this fight. I really don't. I really don't. Moving on. We have Bruno Ferreira going against Phil Hawes. We got Bruno Ferreira, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 10-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Phil Hawes, 35 years old, 6 foot with a 77.5-inch reach, 12-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Phil Hawes opened up plus 150, currently plus 105. Bruno Ferreira opened up minus 175, currently minus 125. And this is probably the toughest fight to call on the card, for me, at least. And here's why. Phil Hawes, I mean, if we're talking skill for skill, this fight's not close. This fight's not competitive. Skill for skill, Phil Hawes is minus 300 or more in this matchup. Phil Hawes has fought the better competition. Phil Hawes is more experienced. He has more cage time in the UFC and out. Phil Hawes is the better offensive wrestler. He's the better defensive wrestler. 100% takedown defense. Phil Hawes has a ton of power. Phil Hawes has really good striking, really good volume. Phil Hawes has underrated grappling. Phil Hawes is a great finisher. Phil Hawes has improved cardio. Phil Hawes has went 15 minutes. Phil Hawes has seen the third round, unlike Ferreira. Phil Hawes is better in every single aspect of MMA. Besides one thing, and that's the chin, man. I mean, this guy's chin is questionable is an understatement. This guy's the Shannon Ross of the middleweight division out there. He's a guy that can be going out there, winning every single second of the fight, but one shot, that's it. I remember Phil Hawes against Chris Curtis. He was looking incredible. He was schooling Chris Curtis. And then I think it was John Anik potentially. He was like, Chris Curtis really needs to change something up. And like a second later, Curtis lands a big shot and knocks out Phil Hawes. And that can happen. Like, it takes one shot. And Phil Hawes isn't getting any younger. He's 35 years old. He's been knocked out brutally so many times. I went back and watched that Delidze knockout. I think it was Mark Smith. I mean, Mark Smith should be ashamed of himself. I mean, so Delidze, like, ripped Hawes' leg off. And Hawes gets up. He continues fighting for some reason, and then Delidze just knocks him out with the nastiest combination, just knocks him out cold. It's just hard to watch. And then Alaskarov head kicks him, wobbles him, and just flatlines him. And that was last fight, right? Like, he's not getting any more durable. He's not getting any younger. And I worry about him. Like, this guy's chin, this guy's durability, it's not where it needs to be. Every other skill is. I think, skill-wise, he's incredible. It's just you got to have durability. And he's taken on Bruno Ferreira, who I don't think is all that great, but what he does do that is great is he has power. And that scares me when we're talking about Phil Hawes. So should Phil Hawes win this fight? No doubt about it. Will he win this fight? I don't think so. I can't pick him. How am I going to pick somebody that I don't think can take a shot? I can't. So I'm going to take Bruno Ferreira, first round knockout. Hawes is probably looking good up until he's not. So Bruno Ferreira, for me, I'll take him to win this fight by first round knockout. Cannot trust the chin of Phil Hawes. Moving on, we got another great fight here. Ricky Simón going against Mario Bautista. We got Ricky Simón, who is 31 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach, 20-4, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Mario Bautista, 30 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach, 13-2 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we have Ricky Simón opening up minus 225. He's currently minus 175. Bautista opening up plus 190, currently plus 150. So this is a big step up in competition for Mario Bautista, who I'm very high on. I like both these guys quite a bit, but Mario Bautista, you kind of dig into his record a little bit, and he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, but his wins come against Jay Perrin, Brian Kelleher, Benito Lopez, the realtor, 43-year-old Guido Canetti, and then Damon Blackshear, which a lot of people thought Blackshear won the fight. And yeah, I mean, I think that's viable. I mean, Blackshear came in there on short notice and potentially won that fight against Bautista. So yeah, I mean, his last couple wins aren't great. The Blackshear win's good, but did he win? I don't know. It was close. Regardless, this is another step up in competition. So he kind of came back to earth a little bit. He was running through guys. He ran through Brian Kelleher, ran through the realtor, Benito Lopez, ran through Guido Canetti, and then he takes on Blackshear, and he has some resistance. You know, he's not running through a guy like Blackshear. Blackshear's very good. And this is a fight where I feel like for Bautista to win this fight, he's going to have to do one of two things, which the first would be knocking out Ricky Simón, which, hey, it could happen. Ricky Simón got knocked out by Song Yadong. Ricky Simón got knocked out by Uriah Faber. Ricky Simón's been dropped multiple times in the past. So, yeah, I mean, if Bautista knocks him out, fair game. Or I think Bautista's going to have to out-wrestle Simón, which I just don't see happening. I really don't. We saw Bautista get taken down 4 times by Blackshear, twice by Perrin. We have not seen Ricky Simón really get out-grappled by anybody outside of, I guess you could say, Merab, where Merab took him down 6 times, but I wouldn't say he out-grappled him. He took him down 6 times, but he didn't hold him down at all. And if you're, he stuffed, I think like 16, 17, 18 takedowns against Merab Dvalishvili. So, yeah, I just don't see him out-wrestling Ricky Simón here. I think it's a levels fight. I think Ricky Simón's fought the much better competition overall throughout his career, and I think Ricky Simón wins this fight outside of getting clipped or something like that. I think Simón should go out there and win a decision. I think he out-wrestles Bautista, takes him down and controls him, and wins a pretty decisive decision. So give me Ricky Simón here. I'll take him to win this fight by decision. Moving on, we got Gabriel Benitez going against Jim Miller. We got Benitez, 35 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 23-10 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Jim Miller, 40 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 36-17 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So let's see, we have some live movement here. Benitez opened up -140, currently -105. Jim Miller opened up +120, currently plus or -115. Yeah, Jim Miller as an underdog definitely stuck out to me. Money's been coming in on him. This is another tough fight to call for me because, there's some question marks about both guys. On the Benitez side, I have a lot of question marks. He's only 35, but he's taken a pretty big layoff. Like, the last time he fought was against Charlie Ontiveros, which that fight, let's be real, doesn't really count. But if you do want to count it, it was a year and 4 months ago. His actual real fight against a real opponent was David Onama. That was like a year and 8-9 months ago. So, and he got knocked out. So he has been very inactive, whereas Jim Miller, although 40, has been very active. Jim Miller's been, a lot more active than I even like to see, because I kind of want him, I think everybody wants him to fight at UFC 300, and he said he still will, but he's been very active, a lot more active than Gabriel Benitez, right? And the durability of Benitez, like I said, he's only 35, but he's getting knocked out quite a bit. He's getting hurt quite a bit. Onama knocked him out. Billy Q just destroyed him. He got knocked out against, I think, Sadiq Youssef as well, all these are great fighters, but still, getting knocked out left and right, Benitez, being very inactive, Benitez. Whereas Jim Miller, he's being very active. He's very durable. We've seen no holes in his durability whatsoever. And quite frankly, Jim Miller at 40 years old is probably the best he's been looking in a while. There was a stretch of Jim Miller where it's like, he's on his way out. He's going to retire soon. This was like 36-year-old, 37-year-old Jim Miller. But nowadays, he's on a run. He's knocking fools out. So, yeah, I like how Jim Miller's been looking, whereas Gabriel Benitez, inactivity, durability, I have question marks about it. But, yeah, I mean, you take a look at both these guys' wins. Like I said, the wins for Benitez, not great. You can kind of say the same thing about Jim Miller. Wins over Jesse Butler. I mean, come on. Nikolas Motta, Eric Gonzalez, Donald Cerrone, retirement fight. Not the best wins. So, whoever wins this fight, I mean, it's going to be their best win in a very long time, you got to imagine. So, in terms of picking a winner, I'm going to take Jim Miller. I think he might even knock out Benitez. Obviously, Benitez, the better striker. I love Benitez's striking. It's just, can he take a shot? What's he been up to? I don't know. So, I'm going to say Jim Miller knocks this guy out in the first round. Could even see like a club and sub as well from Jim Miller. Jim Miller, obviously incredible on the ground, but it seems like he wants to strike lately, and why not? He's knocking guys out. So, I think the same thing happens here. Jim Miller, first round knockout. Moving on, we got the co-main event, Manel Kape going against Matheus Nicolau. We got Kape, 30 years old, 5'5", with a 68-inch reach, 19-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Matheus Nicolau, 31 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach, 19-3-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Manel Kape opened up -210, currently -255. My bad. Nicolau opened up plus 180. And he's currently plus 215. So, yeah, we got the rematch here. We have 2 rematches on this card, one in the co-main, one in the main. And I actually bet on Matheus Nicolau in their first fight, which their first fight was 2 years and 9 months ago. When I saw that, I thought that was wrong because it feels like It wasn't too long ago they fought, but yeah, it was 2 years and 9 months ago. Time flies so fast. So it was a while ago at this point, and I bet on Nicolau at plus money. And the reason I did is because Manel Kape, outside the UFC has shown to be, taken down, controlled, submitted, all that. And in the first round, Nicolau went out there. He did exactly that. He took down Manel Kape. He controlled him, and he did a good job of winning that first round. The second round comes around. Manel Kape beats the crap out of Nicolau. Has him wobbling all over the place the entire second round. And then in the third round, it was back and forth, third round, up until there's like 10, 15 seconds left. Manel Kape starts putting it on him, lands like a big flying knee, and I think that swayed the fight in favor of Kape. The judges disagreed. The judges scored the fight for Nicolau, and pretty much everybody disagrees with that, and that's kind of why we're getting the minus 255 here for Kape. A lot of people think Kape can be a future champion, and I might be one of those people. Like, I could see Kape being champion within the next year and a half, right? So this guy's good. This guy's very good, and he's improving. He's only 30 years old. The weakness in his game in the past has been the grappling. He's been sub twice. The takedown defense, he can be taken down, but he does a really good job at getting back up. He's really hard to hold down. He's now a black belt, I believe, in BJJ. I mean, Manel Kape's making so many improvements, and he's being more aggressive. He's looking more confident in there, and I think that's kind of what he lacked coming into the UFC was maybe confidence. Like, it took him a while to get going. He was so low volume in those first two fights against Pantoja, against Nicolau. Nowadays, he's going out there, he's being aggressive, which an aggressive Manel Kape is scary, and if he's aggressive here, he's taking off Nicolau's head. Matheus Nicolau is not durable. 3 knockout losses for Nicolau. Anytime he's losing by knockout. Manel Kape has a ton of power. I think Kape knocks out Nicolau this time around. For Nicolau to win, I think he's going to have to wrestle him for 15 minutes, and I'm not sure that's on the table this time around. So give me Manel Kape here. I think Manel Kape knocks out Matheus Nicolau in the second round. Banger of a co-main event. Moving on to the main event, I did do a main event breakdown. If you guys want to check that out a little bit more in depth. Not my favorite fight in the world, but there should be a fight nonetheless. We got Magomed Ankalaev, Johnny Walker 2, 5-round main event, light heavyweight fight. We got Ankalaev, 31 years old, 6'3", 75-inch reach, 18-1-1, 3-0-1 draw, and then 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Johnny Walker, 31 years old, 6'6", with an 82-inch reach, 21-7, and 3-1 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. So yeah, my prediction has not changed. These guys fought about 2 months ago, and my thinking was Ankalaev should win this fight really however he wants. I mean, if he wants to knock out Johnny Walker, that could be on the table. Johnny Walker gets knocked out by a lot of people, or the path to victory that I like the most here for Ankalaev is to wrestle. Like, if he wrestles, he makes it look easy. In their first fight, not much we can tell. It lasted like 3.5 minutes, but what we did see was the striking early on was very competitive, back and forth up until Ankalaev landed a body shot that maybe hurt Johnny Walker, maybe it didn't. Was he faking? I don't know. It's Johnny Walker. It's hard to tell. And then Johnny Walker fakes getting hurt and then tries to land a flying knee. Ankalaev pushes him against the cage and is able to control him there for a little bit and tries to get to his back, and then Ankalaev lands an illegal knee. So hopefully this time around he doesn't do that, but yeah, as long as Ankalaev fights smart here, takes this fight down to the mat, should have no problem controlling Johnny Walker. Ankalaev, he can wrestle, he can control guys, he can make fights boring, and I don't think this is going to be the most exciting fight, but I do think it's a very winnable fight for Ankalaev as long as he does not strike with Johnny Walker for too long, and even if he does that, he probably knocks out Johnny Walker, who's very chinny, whereas Ankalaev, he's shown no durability issues to speak of, and cannot say the same thing for Johnny Walker. So, yeah, Ankalaev, a lot of avenues here, big favorite for a reason. I'll take Ankalaev to win this fight, and win this fight by decision. There you guys have it. Thank you so much for watching, and welcome back. Looking forward to a great 2024. Be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Check out all the options I have on there. Highly recommend signing up for the yearly. Get yourself a free t-shirt, and also check out Prize Picks as well. I'll be doing a Prize Picks video later in the week. If you guys want to check out Prize Picks, use promo code DFSBTN. Get yourself a 100% deposit match up to $100. And then I'm also planning on adding some extra Prize Picks content on the website, on the Patreon. I think I'm doing like breaking down my 5 favorite Prize Picks plays, and then also doing like a Prize Picks entry each and every week. So you're going to be adding another ton of new content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and best of luck for UFC Vegas 84. See you guys later.